Hello. This is Unbearable Lightness of Being, section, what is it? Part 4, Soul and Body, Part 2. In case, just to catch you up on current events, Kim Jong-un killed his uncle recently. So, in case you thought your government sucked, at least you're not in North Korea. Let's get started. Today we're going to talk about the body as a sex organ. We're going to talk about shooting up in the park. We're going to talk about your body as a conduit for shit. And we will talk about what it is that she wants. We're going to focus on Tereza. And the scene begins with her, or this section begins with her leaning over Tomas and, her husband, and smelling the scent of another woman's genitals in her husband's hair, which I'm not married, but I assume that's probably not what you want to smell on your husband when he stumbles home after a long night off, right? And there's this interesting part where the dog, which they named after, Anna Karenina, is defending his rights, which is interesting because it's a dog. It has its rights, and that's right in the beginning there. So I don't know. This section of the novel is a little bit more simple, but this novel is great because it is about, as they say, the questions with no answers. So this isn't about this ABCD bullshit that people have tried to turn the study of literature into, or rather, I guess, for-profit companies who have standardized tests, right? Have tried to make literature this like ABCD. This chapter is not about that. Although there is some interesting things get brought up. So Teresa smells, a woman's genital in Tomas's hair, and she smells it again another time. She goes to the spa, and there's this moment where she's looking at this woman who, has kind of like very large breasts and a big old butt, I suppose. And she contrasts that to her own. She has small breasts. She kind of feels self-conscious about that. And she talks about, like, we're born into a concentration camp of, like, our body, and you can't really escape it. So what is that all about, right? And she even wonders, like, what if my nose grew, like, an inch a day? Like, when would people start to notice it, and when would I stop to be me? So it's an interesting point, like, how much of your personality and how much of your eye, by the way, what the heck is your eye? But how much of that is contingent on, your body? So she brings that up. And it's an interesting question, right? Once she realizes once she realizes that Tomas is cheating on her, she kind of starts to think, what do I do? All right. She kind of always suspected, I think, that Tomas is cheating on her. Once it's very obvious, now what, right? And she wants to maybe like flirt, maybe try another body out just to see what it would be like. And talks about flirting is the promise of sexual intercourse without a guarantee. There's a whole chapter on, like, what is flirtation. There's a cool little chapter. A fine art, right? A balance between promise and lack of a guarantee. From what I heard, from what I have been told, this is a fine art. Not that I would know anything about it. I do not reference anything that happens in this book, by the way. Tomas senses that she's suffering. And this brings us to a really odd scene in this book. I understand you. I know what you want, said Tomas. I've taken care of everything. All you have to do is climb Petrin Hill. Right? And she's like, what? Going to this hill? And he's like, yes. Unless I know what you want, right? She goes up and essentially bumps into these men who have a rifle. And they ask her, is this your choice? Right? Freedom, fate. Is this your choice to be here? And she's like, yes, I think so. Out of weakness, she says. I don't want to let him down, right? I want to do what he says. I want to be commanded still. Note it's a beautiful day. And note that on this dude's rifle, there's like a silencer. So these people are like falling to the ground noiselessly. Almost like it doesn't really matter. And in the author here, does it matter? These people have greeted their death. They each find a tree that they want to be killed at. They each blindfold themselves. It's a very odd scene, right? And then Teresa's up. She gets all the way to the tree, sorry, and then breaks down and says, I can't do this. Right? I know what you want. your pardon, your wife is freaking out because she smells other people's genitals in your hair, and your knowledge of your wife is so profound that you know she wants to die. Well, not quite is what we're learning. She doesn't want that. What does she want? I think we inch our way towards it at the end of this chapter. Mainly, she wants Tomas just to be with her. But I don't think she knows yet what she does want, and a lot of people don't. So she's like, oh, how about this? I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to cheat on my husband. Maybe just to go through with that is going to be enough. And there's this, long drawn out scene, not so long, where that happens. And she decides, all right, I'll sleep with this engineer, who she later starts to think is part of the secret police. Is it true? We don't know for sure, but she certainly becomes convinced of this. Right after they have sex, she goes over to the toilet and, right, even though the sewer pipelines, they carefully hidden from view, we're happily ignorant. This is talking about the sewage system, right? We're happily ignorant of the invisible menace of shit underlying our bathrooms, bedrooms, dance halls, and parliaments, right? They rise up from the floor like white water lilies. They have this pristine kind of like, hey, look, go ahead and sit down and empty your bowels. But really what you're doing is emptying your bowels, right? It looked like what it was, the enlarged end of a sewer pipe. So as she's naked right after having sex and she's, using the bathroom, she feels kind of ashamed, runs out of that house, right? And, near the end, they go to this little country chateau, this little place that they like to vacation at. All the names have been changed in a rush, and she starts thinking, like, what is a name? Do people hide behind this mask? I don't know, it's an interesting question. And it's also our first kind of indication of what eventually she does really want, which is, I don't know, maybe Tomas in a place where there's no distractions. We're not going to really get into it too much, but you have the city contrasted to the country. It reminds me almost like one time this student, I used to teach in Phoenix, and it was, really fucked up place. Most kids don't do too well who stay. A couple went to, two went to college. Way more ended up in jail. Way more have kids than that. One kid moved away and he went to Michigan, this rural spot. And he's doing awesome. And one day I asked him, why do you think you're doing so much better? He's like, I don't know, man, but kids there are different. I don't know, weekends are different. And, I think he means there is something different about the country. So we're getting there. We haven't quite reached there yet. This was more like a chapter into the odd world that is Tereza. I don't know if she's a more tragic character than Sabina. And I don't know if I should feel bad for her too, because we talk about how pity is this inferior form of love. I don't know, co-feeling. Do I co-suffer with her? I'm not really sure yet. We know that she doesn't really know what she wants. We know that she kind of views her body as this vessel for her. We know she likes to be commanded by Tomas, but it's interesting. She didn't really like the act of sex, but she did more like the sight of this alien penis near her. That was what was the best part for her. We're gonna get to the best part of what Tomas likes in sex, and he gets into that pretty heavily. But I don't know, a little bit of a more simple section than the previous one, where you have Franz and Teresa and the comparison between the two, but nevertheless, very interesting stuff. So keep reading. Questions, comments, concerns, send me an email. What else? I don't know. Ándale pues.